So you just make it a bit messier in here. Try and do her hair like that one. And if you've got a few, I don't know, some Lisa around, because the queen of organisation and ticking every box. So I met Alex speaker in Queensland. We did one of these, well not one of these, but a public event where I spoke to the multitudes for a day, and it was really interesting because we had a room full of kids. Where were we at?
Brisbane Convention Centre or something?
There we go. Who fucking is anyway, it was a big room, hundreds of people, and I would say, you can't ask me why, it's changed a bit, about 90% ladies, and just sitting out like a shag on a rock was this bloke in the middle of all these ladies, and through the course of the day, and I really must have been with someone who wasn't, he went there by himself, and I kind of were doing, presenting two activities, group stuff, and through the day I would move around the room, say hello to people, and I thought I would go and see that talk in the afternoon, see what he's about, because it's weird that he's here, because he doesn't really fit in like a caring way. And I went over and I went, how are you? He goes, yeah, good. I go, who did you come with? He goes, by myself. I'm like, weird, all right. What do you do? And he's like, I work in the medical space. I'm like, of course, he's a medical rep. He's all showing him. That's what. And I go, are you a medical rep? Very joking. And he goes, no. I go, well, you're going to fucking tell me. And then I'm thinking nurse. I don't know why. I know this is terrible, but I just didn't think neurosurgeon. I didn't spring to mind, international model or actor, but I'm like, anyway, we just need to become friends, and it's a pleasure for me to introduce Dr. Alex Koefman.
Thank you very much. Firstly, can you hear me okay? Great. All right. Secondly, who also has a difficult one you've got to explain every time you order a fucking ice cream? You've got to spell it out every single time. Who knows what I'm talking about? Yeah, okay, you feel the pain. I just want a power name. I'm a surgeon. I should have a power name. I want a power name. I worked for a brilliant old boss of mine who had a power name. It was beautiful. I'll tell you what it was. This is what it was. It was Mr. Hun. It's fabulous. It was short, it was phonetic, easy to spell, it was just, and it made his life easy. I'll give you an example. Mr. Hun here. I'm coming to theatre in 30 minutes. Be ready. Who was that? Oh, it's Mr. Hun. Hun's coming. Quick, get ready. I was like, I like the look of that. I'm going to try that. Mr. Koefman here. I'm coming to theatre in 30 minutes. But no, Koefman. I'm coming to theatre in... No, K-O-E, F for Freddie, M for Mike, A for Alf, N for no... Oh, fuck's sake, forget it. Who was that? I don't know, some guy just trying to order coffee or something. Don't worry about it. Really want a power name. Today, for 40 minutes, I'm going to talk to you about really one thing, and that's going to be purpose. But first, I want to talk about something a bit more controversial, but I know you can handle it. Right? It's slightly like a taboo topic, and that is money. I know what you're thinking. 90% of you are here like, I didn't come here to talk about money. I'm not interested. Besides, you're a doctor. It's not right to talk about money. 10% are like, yep, let's do it. But don't worry, my fiancée is like the 90% of you. She hates money talk, hates it. True crime, on the other hand, different story. Can't shut her up. Any true crime fans here? There's a few, yeah, my God. I swear, when I go missing, the police are not going to find the body. She goes to sleep with the AirPods in, listening to true crime. It's a fucking miracle when I wake up in the morning. It's like I'm alive. Just got to make sure I'm not in the boot of a car somewhere, you know. Just very quickly, the thing I don't get is the holidays. You know, the suntan, by the pool, the pina colada. It's fabulous. Oh, babe, isn't this great? Oh, it's just fantastic. What are you listening to? Oh, just about some wife who cut her husband's head off and shoved it in a bin. Oh, what the fuck is wrong with you? Money. Stay with me on this one, okay? I'm going to tell you a story. It's not about me. It's about an orthopaedic surgeon. And I don't know him well. In fact, I don't know him at all. I just know what happened to him. He's an orthopaedic surgeon that works in a hospital just down the road from me. And he's young for a surgeon. He's in his early 50s. And he's had it pretty good. His father was an orthopaedic surgeon who retired, handed him a successful private practice. Lucky, he's had it good. And a couple of years ago, this orthopaedic surgeon bought a lotto ticket. Don't know why. He's already won the lotto in life. But why is not what's important. What's important is what happened to him. And a couple of years ago, the Powerball got to $150 million. Does anyone remember that? And this guy buys a ticket. We don't know why, just that he did. And that Thursday night, after the numbers were drawn, and this is a true story, he realised two things. Firstly, that he'd been lucky. And second, that he'd been unlucky. Lucky because he won. Jackpot. Unlucky because on the same night, so did two other people, and he had to share it. But 50 million is 50 million, right? And we could not believe it. All us surgeons in Brisbane were like, one of us just down the road won $50 million. It was pandemonium. We were so jealous. It was unbelievable. But I realised something there and then. I realised what was truly important in my life. And that was $50 million. 12 weeks later, we've all forgotten about it. The dust has settled. I'm back to doing what I enjoy and what I'm good at. And this day I'm in theatre, and my assistant across the table from me, who's training to become a neurosurgeon herself, turns out she, the week prior, had had dinner with the orthopaedic surgeon and his wife, who won the money. And it was extravagant, as you can imagine, with 50 million on the table. And apparently, the orthopaedic surgeon and his wife asked her, "What is the most expensive champagne you've never had?" I'll get it for you. And that night, she spectacularly redefined the most expensive champagne she'd never had, as you can imagine. I should also point out that the orthopaedic surgeon and his wife invited her to dinner at their new mansion on the river. In the garage was a new Ferrari. Just as an aside, where in the terms and conditions does it say if you win big, you've got to live a total fucking cliche? He's not even a good multimillionaire. I don't know. It's like no one needs a total hip replacement, goes to their GP and says, just make sure you refer me to an orthopaedic surgeon with a big imagination. As she was telling me this, something interesting popped into my head. Neurosurgery, I love. But not as much as a house on the river and a Ferrari. Hands up if you recognise this dangerous loop. Wanting what you haven't got, wanting more than what you've got, yeah? It's such a dangerous loop. I'm here to say that purpose pays better. Purpose pays much better. Purpose drives persistence. Now, I'm going to tell you the story of how I got into med school. Neurosurgery was my purpose, and I just knew that. As a kid, I just knew that. And I worked hard to make the cut for med school. And there was a friend of mine in school. He also wanted to get into med school. We were the only two in my year trying to make it. And that was in year 10. I worked hard for 2 years. And I remember the day. In fact, if I close my eyes, I can still see the bench we were sitting on. Outside the doors to the university medical school and a brand new life ahead. For him. The call came and my friend Damon got up and walked into that lecture theatre as a brand new medical student. And the doors shut in my face. Oh boy, do I remember those fucking doors shutting in my face. And then I had to walk down the hill to the science department for my first science lecture. I missed the cut for med school. I missed the cut by 4 points. Couldn't believe it. I felt so alone. I felt so abandoned by my dream. Where were those 4 points? Because maths I was good, very good. Physics, biology, great. The problem was I could not understand, no matter how hard I tried, why Macbeth could not wash the blood off his hands. Or better still, why Shakespeare couldn't explain in plain English why Macbeth couldn't wash the blood off his hands. Does anyone else feel the pain? And English lit, it sunk me by 4 points. The med school was on the top of the hill and the science department was at the bottom in a cold concrete building. That's how I felt. The sunshine was up there and the prison was down here. I did that year in science. It was tough. I'll spare you the details, but it was tough. It was tough to watch somebody else live your dream. But I did well. It was a Herculean effort, but I did well. And in normal circumstances, I would have been very competitive getting in the following year. Except for that year was not normal circumstances because they just introduced a new aptitude test for everybody to sit before they get into med school. And I remember sitting in my car with the envelope in the summer break with the results of this aptitude test. And I open it. And I look at it. First section, 90th percentile. It's pretty good. Second section, 99th percentile. Not so much I have a chance here, I'm kicking the door down here. Just comes down to the third and final section. And I look at it, and I can't believe it. But it's true, it's there in black and white. Alex Koefman, communication section, 0 to 15th percentile. So bad, you don't even get your own percentile, you just get a range. It's worse than a participation award. I'm the guy who didn't get the participation award because by the time they got to me, they'd run out of participation awards. I sat in that car for 45 minutes and I was numb. My dream was shattered. I was just a dreamer. Fuck this, I thought. I'm going to go to the Dean of the medical school and I'm going to plead my case. And what you should know is that you don't go to the Dean and plead your case. What you do is you pass the communication section just like everybody else. And if I remember those doors closing in my face on day one, I sure as hell remember walking up those stairs to his office. The balustrade was something like Harry Potter, and it's alive and it's evil and it's going to bite you. And it was a nasty 2 flights of stairs. I felt like a trespasser. I felt like an idiot. I knocked and I hoped he wouldn't be there so I could... Come in. My heart races to the back of my throat. And he's sitting behind his desk, and I am desperately looking for a face of a loving father. And he has got the face of a bullfighter, and he is not happy to see me. What? Doesn't even sound like a question. Sir, my aspiration is to get into medical school and become a brain surgeon. And his face tells it all. He's heard this from 1,000 other students, all bleeding before him and pleading before him to chase that dream. But to his credit, he was patient with me. Sit down. Yes, sir. Let's look at your results. Now? Yep. Sit down. Let's look at your results. Science results. Okay. I was like, okay, it's fucking pretty good, I would have thought, but anyway. Aptitude. Okay. You do know that communication is 0 to 15th percentile. No shit, why the fuck do you think I'm here? Sorry, mate, you can't get on that. I mean, seriously, come on. Good luck next year. I tell you, if I remember those doors shutting in my face, and if I remember walking up those stairs, I sure as hell remember walking down those stairs. And I did the only thing I knew to do, which is to jump on my drum kit. My drum kit is like my harbour when the war is raging. You've all probably got one of those. 2 days later, the phone rings. And it's the dean of the medical school. Alex, the dean of the medical school is on the phone. Perhaps he's going to give me a job cleaning the carpets or something because he felt bad, I don't know. Alex, it's Prof here. I ran into your anatomy tutor in the corridor yesterday. He said he was surprised you were even trying to get into medical school. It's like, okay, that doesn't sound good. He said he thought you were a medical student. Okay, that sounds pretty good. He said, in anatomy tutorials, you were brilliant, outstanding. One of your tests on the aptitude is genius level. We're going to give you a spot. And I'm sorry I was hard on you the other day. I remember it. And the universe just shifted a fraction. And my trajectory was changed forever. Now, you may say that I was lucky. I was. Lucky that he ran into my anatomy tutor in the corridor. Lucky that he even mentioned my name. Lucky I was in the conversation. But you know what? I was in the conversation. And that was the first time that my love for anatomy saved my skin. And it wouldn't be the last, I can tell you. But from that day forward, I flew because I was doing what I wanted to do. I was in med school and I flew. And later, neurosurgery taught me the value of purpose in overcoming seemingly insurmountable problems. And without purpose, probably not going to overcome them. House on the river, new Ferrari, looking at what the neighbours got. Let's admit it's good, right? It's not bad, it's good. But it's not as good as doing what matters most to you. And neurosurgery showed me this, it did. Neurosurgery showed me the trap of trading purpose for the rat race. Neurosurgery showed me how to clip an aneurysm and remove a brain tumour and fix a spinal fracture, but it also showed me the trap of trading your purpose for the rat race. I'm going to lighten the mood. So Alex, what's this big deal about anatomy? Why do you like it so much? I'm glad you asked, because I'm going to show you. There are two reasons why I love it, and I'm going to show you. The first is anatomy is poetic. For me, anatomy was poetry. Shakespeare wasn't fucking poetry, anatomy was. I'm going to prove it to you. This here is the anatomy of the human body, everything. And that section there is everything from the neck down. And this bit here, well, that's the neurosurgical bit. That's brain and the skull. And I recently lent this to someone to study for their exam, and as you can see, they found the rest of the body quite poetic, lots of highlighting going on. The neurosurgical bit, not so much. But I'm going to prove to you that anatomy is poetic. Are you ready? Not everyone at once. Are you ready? Yes. In the lateral wall, the third and fourth cranial nerves and branches of the fifth run forward. The floor of the inner layer of dura across the middle cranial fossa. The anterior limit of the lateral wall is the vertical line of fusion with the greater wing of sphenoid. At the lateral margin of the foramen rotundum. It's pretty good, right? It's pretty good. I told you. Told you. The second reason, it's poetic, the second reason anatomy does it for me is because it really ticks the box of something I like, and that is finding patterns in complex shapes. Hands up if you're one of those. Yep, great. Good or bad. And when I discovered anatomy, it really ticked that box for me. I was like, wow, there's this complex thing, the human brain, and all of a sudden I can start to see these patterns in it. I couldn't get enough of it. And then I found this book. This guy is just the brain. And I read it, and it was like we were kindred spirits. And one thing I discovered was this rule of three in the brain. And I'm going to, again, prove it to you. And again, I'm just wondering if you're ready for it. Yeah? Here is the rule of threes. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. There's a pattern. There's a real pattern. You ready? They encase the third ventricle. The cerebral hemisphere have three surfaces and three margins and three poles. I was like, this is incredible. This is going to be easy. When examining these relationships, three neurovascular structures correspond to the three branches of the cerebellar artery, which correspond to the three parts of the cerebellum and the three peduncles. Oh, this is unbelievable. Rule of threes. This is fantastic. This is a pattern amongst chaos. I absolutely love it. And the maxillary artery has 17 branches and you have to learn more. Fuck! So it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. All right, come on, that's pretty good. Anatomy is pretty damn good. All right, I'm going to take it one step further. I'm going to explain to you the anatomy of a donut, all right? Just stay with me on this one. It's good, I promise you. But there's one thing you've got to appreciate, and that's something called proprioception. Now, some of you will know what that is, but I'm going to show you. This is proprioception. Everybody hold your hand like that. And now with your right index finger, I want you to touch the tip of your left. And now I want you to touch the tip of your nose. Not that difficult, right? I want you to do it once more. This time, I want you to do it with your eyes closed. Eyes closed, touch the tip of your index finger, touch your nose. Okay, so that's a little bit more difficult, but everybody got it, right? Okay. You were using exclusively proprioception to be able to do that. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's not that big of a deal, right? It's pretty easy to do. But brain function, like good things in life, you don't appreciate them until you've lost them, right? So I want one volunteer who will allow me to take from you your proprioception. Did you sign the paperwork beforehand? Can you just quickly sign the disclaimer? Okay, so I want you to hold your fingers like that. I want you to close your eyes. Now, right now, this is important, okay? This is the concept. Sorry, what was your name?
Jules.
So Jules is currently, her brain is currently getting information from this finger and from this finger. Those two fingers are sending information to her brain to tell her brain where those fingers are in three-dimensional space. That's proprioception. Now, Jules, will you touch one index finger with the other? Use your right to touch your left. Okay. And touch your nose. And touch your finger again. Okay. You can just drop your left hand. Does Jules' brain have any proprioceptive information going from my finger to her brain? Okay. There is no proprioceptive information going to her brain. The only information going to her brain from this finger is proprioception. And now, assuming this is her hand, there's no proprioception going to her brain. Jules, keep your eyes closed and touch the tip of my finger, please. So proprioception is pretty freaking amazing. It's up there with vision and hearing, okay? It's a pretty extraordinary sense. I want to go to the next slide. Yep. The anatomy of a donut. Stay with me on this. This is really great. This MRI scan of the brain, it's a side-on view looking like that, okay? And to orientate you, you can actually see the person's nose just there. There's their mouth, that's the back of the head. And here is the beautiful structure that is the human brain. It's fabulous. Now, the first area that I'm going to point out to you is this one here. That's called the premotor cortex. That is a phenomenal part of your brain. It is a phenomenal part of your brain. That contains all the motor programs for every movement that you do. So, this donut, if the donut is there, we need a motor program to do that. If there is a donut over there, we need a separate motor program to reach across us and grab us like that. And if someone takes our donut, we need a motor program to do that. Right? Every motor program you've got is up in that incredible piece of brain up there. It's astonishing. Now, to get this donut, this part of the brain goes, we're going to reach out and get that donut. It sends that motor command to this part of the brain, called the basal ganglia. The basal ganglia is like the coarse focus on a lens, okay? It executes that plan in a rough fashion. So it's sort of going to be a bit floppy, but it just roughly gets everything right. It turns on the right muscles and it turns off the other muscles that need to be switched off. So it's the coarse focus. The fine focus is in this guy here, the cerebellum, another phenomenal part of the human brain. And the way it does it is this. The cerebellum gets a signal from the premotor cortex. That is what you want to do. It gets proprioception from the spinal cord saying this is currently where we are in three-dimensional space. You with me? And it then makes the correction. This is where I am, That's the plan, and it makes a phenomenal calculation and correction to be able to do that. It then sends that fine focus back to the basal ganglia. The basal ganglia then sends it up to here, which is the motor strip of the human brain, which then pulls the trigger and sends a signal down to all the nerves in the arms. But it's a bit more eloquent than that. It goes, I'll describe the pathway. Have a listen to this. Motor strip, corona radiata, internal capsule, cerebral peduncle, pons, medullary pyramids. It then crosses over so that the right side controls the left side of the body, and then travels down the spinal cord, each and every one of those nerves that needs to execute that command. Now that's a lot of processing. And it doesn't just happen once, it happens hundreds of times per second. Calculate correct, calculate correct, calculate correct, calculate correct. In fact, if we did a slow-mo of what it would look like to reach out for that donut, and you saw every correction, it would look something like this.
I've got a really nice donut.
Who here thinks the human brain is amazing? Good. I haven't finished. There's one other thing I want to show you. People say, Alex, is it difficult to get into the centre of the brain? I tell them it is, but it's not. There's a secret passageway. There is a secret passageway into the brain, and I'm going to show you. Grab your knuckles like this. This is true. There is a secret passageway into the centre of the brain. We use it all the time. Interdigitate, a great word. And then just pull it apart enough so you can see the bottom knuckles, and then have it peer down that crevice you've just created. Get down really close and peer down that long, bumpy crevice. Everyone have a good old look down there. And then take your right and put it underneath. Put your right fist under your left fist. Tip it over, just pull it apart and have a nice close squeeze so you can see the bottom knuckle down there. Get down close. Take your left and put it under your right. Flip it around, pull it apart and have a squeeze down there. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the secret pathway to the brain. And on a scan, it looks like... Can I have the next slide, please? Secret passageway, right there. So this was the first part of your knuckle. Change direction across here. Change direction up there. That's called the Sylvian fissure. And it is absolutely fabulous. And the most common reason we use the Sylvian fissure is for operating on blood vessels. It's called cerebrovascular surgery, and it is the greatest thing in neurosurgery. Cerebrovascular surgery is the greatest thing in neurosurgery. Operating on a blood vessel is the greatest. And all the great neurosurgeons of the world are cerebrovascular surgeons. Albert Roton, Robert Spetzler, Michael Morgan, Alex Koefman, no. And you notice how those bastards have all got power names. Albert Roton, Robert Spetzler, Michael Morgan. I've got to hang up about the power name, I know. But it's just beautiful. Looking at a blood vessel under the microscope is one of the most incredible things that a neurosurgeon can do. On the anaesthetic machine, a blood vessel sounds like child's play. Beep, beep, beep. But under high magnification, under the microscope, a blood vessel looks like a gas pipeline, and it is thump, 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 thump. It is just incredible. It's absolute thrill. It's the Rolling Stones, it's Oasis, it's the Beatles all rolled into one. I absolutely love it. It's all right, you don't have to like it as well. I think to myself, okay, this is all great, but what is the purpose of the human brain? Like, I know it does stuff. It does stuff. It does proprioception and it thinks and, you know, it looks nice and it's poetic and it's got the rule of threes and it's nice to operate on and the blood vessels look great. But what is the actual purpose of the human brain? Now, I look at it a lot, so I think about it a lot. And I'm going to tell you. But first, I have to tell you something about the real world. Because the real world is not as it seems. Now, stay with me on this one, all right? If a tree falls in a forest, does it make any sound if there's no one there to hear it? Well, the answer is no. The tree falls, it makes pressure waves, but if you want sound, well, you're going to need a brain for that. You're going to need an outer ear, an inner ear, a hearing nerve, and a brain. There is no inherent sound in or outside and in that forest. There are pressure waves, but there is no inherent sound. But here is the kicker. Because in your brain, there is no speaker making that sound. Inside your brain, inside your skull, it is deathly quiet. The real world is deathly quiet on the outside, and inside your skull, it is deathly quiet. And the same with colour. We have electromagnetic radiation, but electromagnetic radiation has no colour. If you want to see colour, well, you're going to need a brain. And again, inside the brain, there is no screen projecting that colour. Inside your brain, it is pitch black. And I know, because I've looked in it. The real world has no sound. Inside your brain has no sound. In the real world, there is no colour. And inside your brain, there is no colour. Where the fuck is it then? I'll tell you where it is. It's on some 11th dimension, vibrating on some bandwidth, on some magical 11th dimension. I'm going to try and give you further appreciation for this. I have a movie to show you. Don't worry, it's not Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's not going to go for 3 hours. It's only a couple of minutes. And it was done for me by a filmmaker in Arizona. So he's done this specially for you guys today. And it's deliberately stimulating. Okay? There's going to be sound. There's going to be extraordinary colour. You might even get a bit emotional, I don't know. And then the video is going to cut to black for 30 seconds. Now, here's what you've got to do. When that video cuts to black, I want you to imagine you are still watching the movie. But think, this is what that movie looks like in the real world. And that's what this movie looks like physically inside my brain. You got that? It's going to play, you'll be stimulated, and all of a sudden it'll go black. And it'll happen a couple of times. Just sit there and think, wow, I'm still watching the movie, but this is what it looks like in the real world. And that's what it looks like inside my head. You ready? Are you ready? Yes. All right, let's do it. Isn't it incredible that this is what the real world is actually like, and that incredible human brain of yours creates all those incredible colours and that sound and that feeling, yet it's not out there and it's not in here, it's up on some wavelength, on some 11th dimension. It's so bizarre that it's something that feels so close. You can almost touch it and feel it. It's like the colour and the sound is like within our fingertips, yet it's so far away. I had a real epiphany about this, and I'm going to tell you about it just very briefly. There's an operation called an awake craniotomy. I'll spare you the details on why we do it, just that we do. And what happens is a patient essentially is on the operating table in the pins with a small part of their brain exposed, and under the drape, the patient is awake. And the first time I did this as a consultant, I remember this. I was looking at the brain like I'd done 1,000 times. I was looking at it. It's white, blood vessels on top of it, snaking around, and just pulsating gently at me with a heartbeat. I looked under the drape, and there's a patient blinking back at me. They were having an experience. They were seeing colour and hearing sound. I went back and looked at the brain, pale white thing, just pulsating at me. I look at the patient having an experience. I should say at this point that when you're bolted to an operating table and awake during an awake craniotomy, that is not the time that you want to see a worried look on your surgeon's face. That's the time you want them to be looking quite confident. And it occurred to me, how does that bit of white stuff, that physical white stuff, create that thing they're experiencing on the 11th dimension? And I realised that I couldn't see the connection. There was this unfathomable gap between the physical and this thing of experience, light and colour, which doesn't exist. And neuroscientists call that gap, or that mind-body problem, the hard problem. How does something physical create that light, the colour and the sound that we see every day? Now, I did something just to test it further. I turned the lights off in that operating theatre, and that patient was given an iPhone with a movie on it, and I watched the brain. And I can tell you, there is no sound coming out of that brain, and there is no colour projecting on that brain. It is pitch black and deathly quiet. That's the physical. Yet, they are hearing sound, and they are seeing colour on some other magical wavelength. The purpose of the human brain. What your brain does is it connects your hands to that 11th dimension. On that 11th dimension are all your ideas, your dreams, your visions, and everything you've ever wanted to do, which you can't access without that brain. Accesses it somehow, I'm not really sure how. Can I have the next slide, please? I'm going to show you an extraordinary photo. Extraordinary photo. This is a photo. You probably think this is not a particularly extraordinary photo. This is an extraordinary photo. That is some of the earliest stone tools ever discovered on planet Earth. Now look at that stone. That stone has not been shaped by the force of gravity. That stone has not been forced by erosion or wind. That stone has been changed by the force of an idea. The human brain came along, and all of a sudden, this new force was unleashed on planet Earth. And up on that 11th dimension are your dreams and your aspirations and everything you want to do. And for a very short period in existence, you have a connection and an insight to that, and all you've got to do is use that connection with your hands to turn it into something physical. Build a pyramid, write a book, do something to your body, I don't care. All that matters is it matters to you. The purpose of the human brain is to connect your hands to your dream and give you a chance for a brief time in history to turn it into reality. Thank you very much.